Good evening, movie fans. It is I, your mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Radulich. And tonight, now normally what we do here on the Radulich Broadcasting Network, we either review a film or we do a commentary. This is the first time we've done a reaction. You know, we've done live reactions to trailers and whatnot, but we've never just sat and watched a movie and then flipped on the recorder and just talked about it in the shadow of what we just watched. And the reason we didn't do a commentary for tonight's movie, which is the 1977 Zucker Brothers movie, the Kentucky Fried Movie, one of my absolute favorites. I think this thing is hysterical. I watched it when I was in high school, and I haven't stopped laughing since. I do bits from this movie constantly. It has informed a lot of my sense of humor. So the Kentucky Fried Movie, it's fabulous. But my guest this evening, 6 feet of black dynamite, Robert Winfree. How do you do, sir?
Only one of those descriptors is accurate.
Yes, sir. He's taken time off from burning the ghetto to the ground to watch this movie. Now,
hang on. For those of you who may not have actually seen the movie in question, who are just listening to our reaction, Mark is referencing bits from it. I assure you I am not engaged in any form of arson at the moment. There's plenty of other people doing that for me.
Yeah. I don't want to date this too much, but hi, Chicago. Anyway, so Robert had never seen the Kentucky Fried Movie, but he's had to tolerate me doing bits from it in various portions of our Damn You Hollywood show, and anytime we've done TV parties, I've made references to the Kentucky Fried Movie. Most recently, he had to do some sort of written coverage for either wrestling or MMA. I don't remember which one, but it was one of these deals where no one was watching, and so I sent him a line from the movie, and he had no idea what the hell I was talking about. It was about, it was one of the lines from Fistful of Zen.
Yen.
Fistful of Yen. Yes. So anyway,
those are two very different things.
Very, very true. A Fistful of Yen, which is a Bruce Lee parody that's in the middle of this movie that they do. In any case, he didn't know what I was talking about, and I was like, "Have you never seen the Kentucky Fried Movie?" And Robert's, you're a pretty learned movie watcher. You've watched a lot of classics, but you'd never seen this one. And I was like, well, this has to be corrected. And I didn't want him to watch it on his own and then lose interest in doing a commentary. So I said, so here's what we're going to do instead. We'll watch the movie together, he and I, and then we'll just react to it, kind of do like a mini review once the movie is over. So that's what you're getting tonight, folks. Mark and Robert doing a 50-year later review of the Kentucky Fried Movie after Robert's seen it for the very first time. Are you familiar with a lot of the Zucker Brothers stuff, like Airplane, Top Secret, Police Squad, The Naked Gun, any of that stuff?
A few of those, yeah. I mean, I struggle with Airplane just because it's so very obviously almost a scene-for-scene parody. I tend to find the sequel to be a bit more actually inventive in its presentation and whatnot. Yeah, I've seen the Naked Gun movies. I'm loosely familiar with this style and a few of their works, even if I didn't know it was that, the Zucker Brothers in particular.
And this, of course, was directed by John Landis. John Landis is...
Believe it or not, my first John Landis movie, I think.
He has directed National Lampoon's Animal House. You've never seen Animal House?
Why would I watch Animal House, Mark?
Because it's a classic.
Hang on. No. Stop for just a second. Think of what you know of my sense of humor.
Fair enough.
Think of what you know of Animal House.
Okay.
And now tell me the portion of the Venn diagram where they overlap.
All right, fair enough.
To be abundantly clear, I'm not knocking Animal House. All right? That's just... I know enough of it to know that I would not enjoy it.
How about Blues Brothers?
No, never have. I've kind of meant to watch that a few times, but I've just never been able to get around to it.
That's got some other classic stuff in there. This is a one whole chicken and a Diet Coke. The music. The very epic Carrie Fisher holding them at gunpoint. It's great stuff. You really need to see Blues Brothers one of these days.
I that I knew that I do know I need to at least check out.
How about An American Werewolf in London?
Uh, I think so, but it's been a long time.
So would you believe this thing actually made money?
It was the 70s, yes.
On a budget of $650,000, this thing
Where
made
in the
7
world?
million.
Where in the world did they spend $600,000 on this?
Well, they had to buy equipment. See,
Okay, I'll buy. You know what? I hope 50% of that went to Donald Sutherland for his cameo as the clumsy waiter.
the film is 87 on Bravo's 100 Funniest Movies, and considered along with The Groove Tube to be one of the groundbreaking films of the entire spoof and mockumentary genres of filmmaking.
So I can blame it entirely for huge segments of film at this point in time.
Yes, sir. All right. We're going to tackle these more or less one by one. The 11 o'clock news stuff is sprinkled throughout this. So the first one is the popcorn you're eating has been pissed in film at 11, which among my friends, that's a very popular line, especially if you have popcorn available. One of us will just turn to the other and say the popcorn you're eating has been pissed in. The next one, Moscow in flames, nuclear warheads are headed for New York. It took me a couple of times to get that one. I think I missed it the first time. It's an obvious joke, but I missed it the first time, and upon repeated viewing, I was like, "Oh, that's hilarious." The next one was Rams play. This one I missed entirely the first time I saw this movie, and it's funnier now that I've gotten older and I get the joke. Rams plagued by fumbles as earthquake rocks Los Angeles. Get it?
I get it.
And then finally, and I'll let you weigh in here after this, I'm not wearing any pants, film at 11. Yes, that is a very popular bit among my friends. So just overall, these little 11 o'clock bits where, the guy says something at the desk, what'd you think of those?
Given my personal sense of humor, these really worked for me. Just a quick little bite, like something that it happens and you almost miss it. Like, you start laughing at it as the next segment starts because that's finally when everything clicks. I love stuff like that. Which might sound odd, but much as I was not alive for most of Laugh-In, but that show's style of humor doesn't really appeal to me in terms of the specifics. But the overall presentation of just we're going to fire, we have rapid fire gags. Yeah, I dig that.
All right, so we start off with kind of a weird one. Argon oil. And the joke here is that they're trying to find different ways to get oil, and so they get teenagers' faces, combs from Italian people, and then finally the last two, I think, are oil from fried chicken and then natural gas of people burping at a chili bar in Texas. Ha ha, get it?
Bodily functions, ain't they grand?
I had some difficulties with this one. I giggle at it now, but I remember, watching it the first time. I think the first time, just because it's so out of left field, it hit me kind of funny, and then in subsequent viewings, I'm like, ugh, just, get to the good stuff already. There's a couple of sketches right in a row that I think are much funnier than this.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
So, I mean, is there anything you want to say about the argon oil bit? I don't think you found it that funny.
Not really.
Okay. This next one's a really long sketch. It's about 6 minutes and 5 seconds long. It's AM Today, and it's broken up into little bits. They have the opening sort of back and forth over kind of funny news headlines, and then they have the ongoing bit of them trying to link up with an on-the-scene reporter who, very timely, reporting on teacher strikes.
It is some, you and I mentioned this is this came out in the 70s, so it's 40 some odd years old.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing how the jokes that from this movie that remain evergreen are about teachers' unions and then
Detroit
yeah, being just hilarious. A hellhole.
This builds up to a animal segment, which is a real thing. They do this on the news, and the whole joke is that they keep calling the gorilla impotent and they can't get laid.
And so the gorilla gets angrier and angrier about this.
Yes, and finally the gorilla tears apart the news studio. The funniest thing I find about this is the Zodiac bit, and it's only funny to me because she has one or two lines while she's reading, and like the whole thing is like you should kill whoever's on life support or
if
whatever.
You're whatever, now's a great time to unplug that machine that's keeping your daughter alive.
Yeah, there's that bit, and they do a couple like that. But then she's like, "If you're a Taurus, see a florist." Like, what?
If you're a Gemini, expect the unexpected. Immediately after which she's shot with an arrow.
Which going back, can you see the little patch where the arrow goes into?
Yeah.
She's an oddly shaped woman. But, yeah, I always cracked up at the arrow, and the arrow becomes a running gag throughout the film.
I think my favorite bit within this bit is actually the political debate. Because, yes. Again, you have to remember, everyone, this came out in the early 70s. Somebody saw this gag and decided this is what cable news is going to be.
It's funny.
And I watched that and I almost didn't laugh because, no, this is the world we live in.
In the wiki, it says, the studio debate between a conservative and a liberal pundit leads to obscenity.
Yeah, which it
did.
It did in this sketch. B, that could be the subheading for everything on cable news. Just doesn't matter what it is. Doesn't matter whose show. Doesn't matter what network. Doesn't matter what side of the aisle the host is on. A debate between a liberal and a conservative leads to obscenity.
Yep.
Film at 11.
Yeah, that's another one where it's supposed to be a joke, but it became real life, which is really funny to me. Anything else about AM Today?
No. This is one of the funnier segments that this movie has.
Yeah, it's definitely
amazing that AM television has not changed in 50 years.
Yeah, this is right. The next sketch is less than 30 seconds, and it's almost like a breather between a really long sketch and a semi-long sketch. And both are attention grabbers. Both are like, when I quote this movie to people, when I talk about it, I quote a lot from AM Today. I also quote a lot from the one that comes after this. So, like, his new car, which is only about 24 seconds long, is kind of a palate cleanser. I don't even think you got this one the first time you watched it, right? You didn't understand what was happening.
Yeah, that's true.
So alarms go off. The guy gets into a car. Alarms go off until he zips his fly. Ha. All right. So this next one, there was talk of whether or not Robert would actually get through. What were you worried about with this movie, by the way? What did you think you were going to get? Because I thought this was going to be the thing that would drive you away, given your religion and your the way you conduct yourself. I figured once you got into basically a mockumentary of sexploitation films, a parody of sexploitation films, you'd be like, all right, I'm done. I don't need to watch this. Which we're only a few minutes into the movie before you even get to the really good stuff. But Catholic High School Girls in Trouble, to me, putting that aside, and again, the question out there is, what did you think was going to drive you away and not make you finish the movie? But
I don't recall having that concern. You had that concern about me finishing this movie. My concern was I thought it was just going to be stupid. Okay.
I got the impression from the way you were talking that you were going to at some point be like, I'm done with this. And I figured this was going to be the sketch that would drive you away.
I don't know. Again, I freely admit this. I am not exactly a paragon of how my religion should be practiced.
Okay.
I mean, look, is this one of those things that all things being equal, I kind of go, okay, I'd rather not have that in my head for a while? Yeah, probably.
Okay.
But, we committed to doing this bit, and I am almost, not impossible, I am very, very difficult to offend.
Okay.
So, again, look, if I were watching this on my own, would I have just, skipped this one? All right, we're going to, skip the tracking bar forward, watch it at, 2.5 times speed or whatever, just get through it. Probably. But am I going to, run screaming from the room, clutching my pearls, going, "Oh no, nudity!"
Well, I, for one, and you got to understand, the first time I watched this, I was in high school, and in many ways, I have matured, I have evolved, and in other ways, I am still that same high school student who
Can't
thinks
confirm.
who thinks shit like this is funny. So this is Catholic High School Girls in Trouble by Samuel L. Bronkowitz, which is a mashup of two different names. Another ongoing gag between me and my friends when whenever we're talking about movies and we're pitching a new movie or something like that, just a joke, we'll go Samuel L. Bronkowitz presents. That's how much this movie has stayed with us over the course of 40 years. But I've also seen a lot of sexploitation films in like.
Oh, really? You?
I went through this phase and where.
You can't set me up like that.
I went through this phase where I was really into film, but it had to be like B films, exploitation films, like 70s avant-garde. Like there was I know everyone knows me as the Explosions guy, who argues with Robert and likes Michael Bay stuff, but there was a period of time.
Shame on you for that, by the way.
There was a period of time where I was really into like art film. But along with that, I got into, around the time that the DVDs started to be sold at record stores and stuff, and they were just throwing everything onto DVD. So I got a lot of the something weird videos, shit like that. I was really into it. So the Catholic High School Girls in Trouble, first of all, has a lot of funny bits to it. The clown whipping the girls, I think, is visually hysterical. The pie in the pie in the ass, and then the pie in the horse's ass, still cracks me up. What did you think? I can't
imagine why. Again, is this my cup of tea in terms of either humor or am I kind of desire to believe that casual nudity is not something that I'm terribly interested in? No, but I'm not going to yell at anybody over this. I'm not going to yell at you for enjoying this because, you're you.
All right. Did you appreciate the next one a little bit better? This movie brought you in Feel Around.
Yeah, that's funny. I found that a little bit funnier.
So the whole bit here is the guy's watching this movie, and as stuff happens in the movie, there's an usher behind him groping him.
Yeah, it's meant to parody, back when theaters were like, hey, we need gimmicks to stay alive now that there's this home video thing. Okay, so what if we have an usher who just physically does all the things to you that are happening on screen? Okay, this never actually happened, but people would do, theaters would do stuff in this same vein, or certain movies would have gimmicks like this attached to them. There was... there was a horror movie for a while. Forgive me, I forget the name. I believe it starred Vincent Price. But for the movie releases, the theaters would go through and set up mild electrical currents that would run up through the chairs, because the invisible monster that was the creature of the film, that was how you could feel it. So at some point, the movie cuts off, you get the announcer's voice going, ladies and gentlemen, I don't mean to alarm you, but the whatever is here in the theater with us, and the only way to get rid of him is to scream, so scream loud, and if you feel him, scream even louder, and then certain seats would be shocked.
Gotcha.
Again, it's just a gimmick. So this one plays on that. That said, the inevitable punchline is fairly obvious.
Yes,
we invite you to stick around for our next feature film, Deep Throat.
Of course, he comes running from the theater. Which, what's funny about that? He had an opportunity to wipe his crotch, and he just threw the towel instead, but then got very excited about the prospect of blowing the guy.
Well, it's because that's what happens in the movie, you see. I don't know. Look, of all the things you're going to complain about for accuracy or just, consistency in this movie, first of all...
Look, I get what you're saying, and I'm not disagreeing with you, but that always bothered me.
Fair play that bothered you.
Okay, so the next handful of sketches are less than a minute in length, except for High Adventure, which is about 3 minutes. You have the whole thing with this movie is that some are movie trailers, some are sketches, some are commercial, like a parody of commercials. So a lot of the commercial ones are really, really quick. So you have this Nitex PM one. The joke is the guy won't wake up. I guess that's funny. What do you think?
Sure. Like as a 30-second gag in the middle of this movie, sure, no harm, no foul.
Yeah. So the next one is High Adventure. This is about 3 minutes, and it's another talk show parody. But the gimmick with this one is that the boom operator makes...
It's just very bored.
Yeah. It makes a mockery of the show and does different shit with the boom. You know, at one point, like one of the guys he uses the microphone up to the guy's heart and it stops. The microphone drinks water and burps. Ha.
There's a slightly better version of that heart gag from a short-lived, like this sort of like short, fast sketch comedy series that I think Kelsey Grammer did.
Okay.
Several years ago at this point. It's two doctors just sitting around in an office. One of them, behind Kelsey Grammer, has the stethoscope up to his own chest and goes, "Hey, Doc, I don't think this works." "Here, let me see it." So he takes it on, puts it up to his own heart and goes, "No, sounds fine to me." And then the guy in the back collapses.
Yeah. Anything about High Adventure?
Nah. I mean, it does... This movie seems like when they have actual... When the material they're parodying is this boring, they don't seem to have a lot that they can do with it. There's not a lot of creativity in that sense.
Agreed.
They really kind of need something that, like, oh, this provides us with plenty of material for send-up for us to actually do a good job of parodying it. So,
yeah, it almost feels like in a lot of this, they had a list of things they wanted to parody, and it was like whether or not it actually worked was sort of irrelevant. They were like, we want to do it, and some of the stuff works out okay, and some of it's like, meh. Like, it's funny the first time you see it, and then on repeat viewings, because you know the gag already, it's like, all right. So, the Headache Clinic stars Bill Bixby as doing something other than Bruce Banner. It's about a 40-second clip, and he's just kind of walking through a series of scientists hitting people in the head.
You don't get the joke here, do you?
Explain it to me.
Do you look up what the Sanhedrin is, first of all?
Assemblies of either 23 or 71 elders appointed to sit as a tribunal in every city in the ancient land of Israel.
Yeah, they were again. It was part of the legal system that the ancient that was part of the ancient Jewish society.
Uh-huh.
This also kind. Oh god, I believe I'm correct about this. If I'm not, I apologize. Just for anyone out there listening who's going to scream at me about how wrong I am. You remember those gags about like the monks who would walk around flogging themselves in the Middle Ages?
Yeah, Monty Python does a bit where they hit themselves with 2x4s.
Yeah. Those people kind of draw some of their inspiration because... Oh, God, I don't want to... You know what? We're here for a comedy review. I'm not going to get into the cultural history or my understanding, such as it is, thereof. That's kind of what they're sending up here is... Like, the gag here is the name of the product, and if you don't get why that's funny, this whole gag falls flat.
Okay. The next one is Household Odors, and it's, like, again, a parody of a commercial, but they don't ever advertise anything. They just, like, they have a woman who sort of reminisces about the time her house stunk. And what I've always found funny about this is the first old lady that walks into the house, she does kind of like a funky walk. She's like, yeah, you know, and she's like shuffling her shoulders, and she's got kind of a jazzy walk. And then she immediately like stands straight up, and she's like, what, fish for dinner or whatever it was she said. And then that's it. That's you know. Then the other two women walk in normal. But I always found it like really funny how the woman walks into the house.
Yeah, she basically needed jazz hands going.
Anything on Household Odors?
No, it's moderately amusing.
All right, so the next one's kind of a long sketch. It's almost 5 minutes. It's The Wonderful World of Sex. You have two, you have a man and a woman who are about to.
This is the dumbest thing.
They're trying to engage in sex, but they're doing it to the instructions of a World of Sex record, and it's like a how-to guide for sex. And at the end of it, and it's like everything that happens in the record, like happens to these two people.
They are following the guidebook to the letter.
Yes, it's right down to he has premature ejaculation, which this whole thing leads to Big Jim Slade, who was a tight end for the Kansas City Chiefs, just crashing through the door and taking the woman away.
Yeah, it was a long way to go for that payoff.
Big Jim Slade. That's another one that we used to do. We just would announce that at various points in our life.
This particular product comes equipped with Big Jim Slade.
Yes, exactly. All right. So I've been doing a lot of talking here, but this is where I really want your opinion. This is the longest sketch of the whole thing. It's a mini movie, and it's 30 minutes long, 31, 34 to be exact. It's a Bruce Lee parody called A Fistful of Yen. So, did you get it? Did you like it? Did you not like it? What was your impression?
You mentioned to me when we were watching this, one of the things about this segment in particular, if you haven't seen enough martial arts movies, especially Bruce Lee movies, to get the parody here, this is going to be just awful.
Yeah, this is really stupid and long.
If you're like me and you enjoy not only a good martial arts movie on occasion, but the mockery of same, this is hilarious. Right down from, first of all, the guy they have playing Bruce Lee, they're playing whatever Liu, like they're playing on Bruce Lee, Evan C. Kim. Kudos to that man. Because he does a tremendous job as a parody Bruce Lee character. Again, you have to have seen enough of these types of movies to get the jokes. So, yeah, certain shots take way too long. There's an inexplicable white woman in this Middle East, in this this Asian army, because of course there is. There's always a bunch of martial arts training that's going on. That's deeply impractical. Everyone is always wearing their gi. For unexplained reasons. There's always a fight scene. There is some innocuous real-world item that is jerry-rigged into being a weapon of destruction, in this case a toy robot. There's a fight scene between the Big Bruiser and our plucky hero that is badly shot because at least one of these people doesn't actually know what they're doing, so the editing is desperately trying to cover up for just how little they know about how to move their bodies. The sound, the sound not being in sync, the dialogue being out of sync with the action and the lips, it's all there. If you like these kinds of movies but still have a sense of humor about them, this is pretty darn great.
I'm glad I've watched this with, like I said, a lot of people. This kills the movie for them. So I'm glad somebody appreciated this.
Also, again, during our big scene, when they're just doing a lot of, hey, look at all the training we're doing, because it's always done by a bunch of extras. They're all, if you know anything about how any of that stuff is supposed to be done, none of it's being done right. Like that, the big group they walk by is just somebody. It's a fairly basic thing in martial arts. Everybody's in a horse stance and you're doing punches, but half the people in the class are just in the wrong horse. They're not in a proper horse stance. And because I spend time helping teach children this stuff, I now watch. Oh, nope. You're pushing your hips forward. Nope. Turn your knees out. Both of which are very important. Turn your knees out so you don't put undue stress on your knee joint, and your hips back instead of forward because you don't want to put stress on your lower back. So I'm watching these people like, nope. If this were really a hardcore training session, those people would be being smacked around for doing this improperly. If It's overly long. I think there's not a lot of debate around that point. But if you like these movies and you do, again, have a sense of humor about them, this is one of the better martial art movie parodies that you'll find, which is kind of saying something because they've been sent up a lot.
And if you were missing them, Big Jim Slade shows up again. He frees the opposing martial arts army.
The men who drink and don't know why or where they are.
Yeah, that's and there was a couple of times where I was like, we had to stop. This is why I didn't want to do this as a commentary, because there's a lot of sight gags and a lot of pratfalls in this movie, but there's also a lot of literary humor in the sense of the joke is something being said, and if you're not listening, if you're not paying attention, or if you're talking over it, you miss some really funny shit. When he's walking through, as an example, when he's walking through the prison area, and he's like, "These are lost drunken men who don't know where they are and don't care. These are lost drunken men who know where they are and do care." And he's like, "I don't know where I am, and I don't drink." And then the one guy, they pull one guy out.
Like, okay, you've got to be. No, you should be in that other cell.
Right. Like, what do you want to drink? I don't care.
I don't care.
My favorite bit of this whole 31-minute experience is Claw, who's the villain, Dr. Claw. He's said that his men have been taking bribes, and they have to prove their loyalty. Which the first time I saw this, I didn't even get this bit. I just liked what the one guy says, which I'll tell you in a second. It took a couple of repeat viewings for me to go, oh, that's why they're doing this. So they have to prove their loyalty, and they do it in kind of a dating show motif. And so the first guy, like, his answer is like boring love song stuff, and he gets head fucking twisted off. And my favorite part about that is even the interviewer just rolling his eyes at him.
Yep.
The second guy, if I were an alarm clock, if I were asleep and you were my alarm clock, how would you wake me up? I wouldn't. I'm no ding-a-ling.
That man deserved his brutal murder just for that pun.
Oh, I love that pun. I have been doing that pun ever since. If I can set somebody up, I've actually said to my wife or other people, if I were asleep and you were my alarm clock, how would you wake me up? What? And they say you're supposed to say I'm no tingling.
Well, whatever helps you get through this sad, tragic existence, I suppose.
The ending, I think, is really stupid, where they do a parody of the Wizard of Oz.
That is
overly stupid.
Here's my feeling about that. They did most of this and then kind of went, oh, we don't actually know how to end it. Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
That's kind of what it felt like.
So we get to the second half of the movie now, and we have a palate cleanser here. It's a beer commercial. Here's the problem with this one. This is called Willer Beer. I guess in the 70s, Hare Krishnas were a big thing. And
they were, and, well, not only that, but this is a very regional joke.
Okay, explain.
The Krishnas, they were a thing. I don't mean to say that they weren't. They were much more a Southern California thing than they were other places, because the weather and the political climate in Southern California is very hospitable to whack jobs.
So I guess if you're living in the 70s and you're living in Los Angeles, this is a funny thing to make fun of Krishnas, and to have them doing a beer commercial where they take the place of the usual casually drinking middle class white folks. It's funny the first time I see it. The 112th time I've seen it, nah. Okay.
This didn't do anything for me.
Yeah, there's a kind of a slew of these right in a row here where it's this worked for that time, but this is not a timeless joke. Which brings us to Scott Free.
Oh god, just very briefly, related to timeless jokes, the fact that in our Bruce Lee parody, we get the breaking of the CIA infiltrator by threatening to send him to Detroit. Oh, Detroit.
So, I don't know how many of you contemporary listeners remember the JFK assassination conspiracy theories, but that's what this is a parody of.
They're still out there. Those people who the JFK conspiracy theorists are still a thing.
I mean, it's a parody of like board game commercials. They kind of like play through, and it's a lot of stuff about the JFK assassination, like embedded in the jokes. Either you get it and you think it's funny, or you're like, this is lame, and thank God it's only a minute long. The next one is hysterical. It's a parody of disaster films, the disaster film genre, which is still with us. This is a timeless joke. This has been going on forever.
You're not kidding. There's always an architect. There's always a nurse. There's always a fireman or some kind of first responder.
We don't always get a clumsy waiter, though.
That has seemed to that's fizzled out a little bit, which is sad because the clumsy waiter is usually the best part.
Donald Sutherland as the clumsy waiter.
Much as Donald, by God, Sutherland is the best part of this entire experience.
Yeah, he falls into cake like no other man I've ever seen. There's a lot of great funny bits in this.
He cashed that check. Look, they paid him. He was going to cash that check, so by God, they were going to get his best cake, face cake.
I think my favorite part of the entire That's Armageddon bit is the governor. And the guy just like, everything's on fire, everything's, like he's just running through a litany of things that have gone wrong. And the governor, and he's like, what are we going to do, governor? And the governor starts to say something and he's shot by an arrow.
Must have been a Gemini.
Must have been a Gemini. What was your favorite bit of That's Armageddon?
Just given how many crappy disaster movies we've watched together, in particular, you and me, this whole thing is funny.
Yeah. My friends and I have always like quoted like, and Donald Sutherland as the clumsy waiter again whenever we talk movies or pitch movies or whatever. The cyclical dialogue of the architect and the nurse.
Yep.
It's funny the first time I see it, and then it does not resonate after which.
Look, it stopped resonating with you because you started watching a lot more of those movies, and now you can't bear to see. Oh no. The writing genius that goes into a Michael Bay movie is being sent up. My cognitive dissonance is kicking in.
Alrighty. The next one features Henry Gibson.
You tell me I'm wrong, I'll apologize.
I can't. The next one features Henry Gibson, and this is a send-up of a commercial. It's the kind of thing where, they're asking for money for a condition or some whatever. The condition in this particular case happens to be death.
God. Can I just say, this is going to happen, right? Like, this is a parody, but considering we're now at a point in our society where people legitimately question whether or not the Earth is round, there's going to be some dumbass who thinks, you know what? I can trick people into thinking that death is just a temporary inconvenience, and we're going to get people like, no, I don't want my son's body interred. He's just dead. He's still going to go to ball games with us and have Thanksgiving dinner.
It's not where I thought you were going with this, because I just watched the show Upload. I finished it in one day, and that's all about preserving people after they've died through a digital medium.
Oh, look, you went toward, as with all things, you went towards one of the things that concerns you, which is this being kind of a loosely related to the inevitable singularity. Mm-hmm. Your concern is, hey, what happens when we can upload our consciousness into a machine and live forever? My immediate response is, boy, there's a bunch of dumb people out there and someone's going to exploit them. One of these things is infinitely more likely to occur in our lifetimes.
Yeah.
And it ain't yours.
All right, the next one is Courtroom Part 1. The whole deal here, this is a spoof of courtroom trial shows from back in like the 50s, I guess. And the other thing about this is that it's all literal. So, like, I got to check my briefs, and he goes and looks at his underwear.
There's so much good humor here. You have to be one of the people like me who, borderline Asperger's, if not just undiagnosed, who can just see. I mean, anyone can see the humor in taking things literally, given how metaphorical our society and language is.
There's a couple of visual ones here. Sorry, when he starts shaking the dildo at the woman, and he's like, "Do you understand the penal code?" That always got me. And then they cut away from him, and then they cut back to him.
I would like the audience. I would like the jury to listen to a tape.
They cut away from him after he's shaking a dildo at her, talking about the penal code. Get it? Penal code. And then they cut to the other attorney who puts his glasses on upside down. They cut back to him, and for no reason, apropos of nothing, and for no reason whatsoever, he's got the dildo on his head, and he's going, "Take me to your leader. Take me to your leader." I've cried the first time I saw that.
You know, it's funnier, too, when you realize the elements of the absurdity of the legal practice in this country.
Yeah. So in the middle of this, we get a 14-second commercial, which I've never understood why she had to be a skeptic. I was hoping maybe you had some insight here.
I got nothing. This is just funny.
What's our skeptic doing? What's our little skeptic doing today?
I feel like, okay, here's the thing with this. I feel like this is a parody of a very specific commercial.
Yeah. It's
not just a type of commercial, like a specific commercial that opened that same way with the parents coming in going, "Well, how's our little Hellraiser skeptic doing today? Well, what zaniness is she getting up to this time around? Trying to prove that the Earth is flat? And instead of frying the cat."
She's cooking the cat in pure Nessun oil, and it just cuts to this girl and a live cat in a pot of oil.
Okay, it's for the record, not a live cat.
Well,
it's a very obviously stuffed cat, but just this cat meow. She's stirring it while it's frying. Oh god! I wanted to pause the movie so I could just laugh at that appropriately. That's hilarious.
Yeah, that never fails to get a laugh.
That got probably, I think, the biggest or second biggest laugh out of this entire thing for me.
Yep. We go back to the courtroom, and it's funny how they end it. The announcer ends up being the one that's guilty. Spoilers. So, next we have one of my favorite sketches, Cleopatra Schwartz. This is another parody. This time it's of Pam Grier movies, blaxploitation films, that sort of thing. They mix up a tall black gal who looks like Pam Grier and a rabbi, and then it's just, it's
Pam Grier and a rabbi walk into a bar.
Yeah, and they do. I'll tell you this: the movie parody stuff, I think they nailed dead on, and it's probably the funnier stuff for me. And this one was no different. Just she wanted to burn the ghetto to the ground. He studied the Talmud at night, and it's just a lot of that opposite stuff. So,
yeah.
What do you think of Cleopatra Schwartz?
I mean, that's not really my.
Are you into? You're not really into blaxploitation, are you?
To the shock of no one, not really my preferred subgenre of film.
Yeah, I figured that wouldn't get a big reaction out of you.
I mean, I've seen enough of them to get the references and kind of appreciate what they're doing. Is it really tickling my funny bone? Not really.
All right, the next one I always thought was hilarious. This is a parody of classroom educational films. I remember these from school.
I had some of these too. I remember these.
So it's called Zinc Oxide in You, and it basically you have a housewife who's doing stuff in the kitchen, and it's like, but how do I use zinc oxide? And they're like, zinc oxide's in everything you use, and if we didn't have zinc oxide, you wouldn't have. And then systematically things start disappearing from her kitchen. I always got a giggle out of he's like, your brassiere.
Her boobs drop about 5 inches.
The heat regulator on your stove, and it bursts into flames. The safety on your child's gun, he shoots himself.
Oh, you could not have that gag today. You could do. There's a version of this movie that could be made today. That gag would not be allowed to be part of it.
I feel like they did something like this on Family Guy, which would make sense. It's the Zucker Brothers show. But I feel like they did a brief nod to zinc oxide and you on Family
Probably.
Guy ones. But yeah, no, you couldn't do this gag today. First of all, I don't think the educational film thing works today. I remember it, but I grew up I was in elementary school in the 80s. I was 5 in 1981. So
Yeah, I think I got some of these as kind of a holdover from my teaching just kind of being not of the generation that gets, hey, flat screens and iPads, but also not quite your generation.
Mm-hmm.
So I got a few of these, but not a tremendous amount, probably not as many as you. And yeah, I mean, to that extent, I think you're correct that the educational film in that respect is not really a thing that gets done a whole lot nowadays.
Family Guy did an episode where they had the military come out and do a recruitment thing. That, I think, is something that kids today would get. Like the Army coming out, and it's like, the Army. Oh, yeah. And it's like all soldiers playing chicken in the pool and stuff like that. Not chicken. They sit on your shoulders.
Yeah, that's chicken.
Okay.
It's it's like chicken fighting.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of what you refer to it as.
Yeah. So, I think that joke works now because that's what kids are kind of exposed to is the Army sort of misleading you into signing up. But the educational video, I think, is long since dead. All right, we're down.
Yet sadly, Bill Nye continues to be a thing.
We have 2 sketches left. One's a minute long. It's one of my favorites. You can't do it now. You can't do this gag now.
You know what? I would love to see someone do this now.
I would
love to see some filmmakers, whoever. I would love to see someone with the balls to do this gag in 2020.
So I have been telling people about the Kentucky Fried Movie for 20-some-odd years, and I always lead with this sketch. This is the one that I tell everyone about, Danger Seekers. And it's a parody of Thrill Seekers, which was a television series from the 73 to 74. And it's about a daredevil. And in this particular case, a daredevil literally walks over the wrong side of the tracks and inserts himself into a gang of guys playing dice and yells out the end.
A gang of black men playing dice.
And then, as they all back up at the oddity of this white man in a flight suit and a helmet, standing amongst them, he yells out the N-word. And then takes off a running.
I love the delay on the guys, because he yells it and starts running. They're like, "What the heck did he do?" It takes him half a second to start chasing him.
Right, there's not an instantaneous punch in the face or anything. They're literally all looking at each other "Did he? What?" And then they go after him. Oh my God! It's a minute.
I just about died.
If you don't know that's coming, that's hilarious.
You really do kind of have to not know that's coming. Daredevils, these people, they like danger. They don't know the meaning of fear. Is he going to jump out of something? Nope. He's going to say the N-word.
You can't do this joke, but this joke is still funny.
It is hilarious. I mean, I said it was probably a good thing we didn't record our live reaction because the fact that you and I reacted, what we laughed the most at was the frying cat and the racism.
That's a lot about us. I mean, I laughed at a lot of this. I mean, I kind of let myself re-experience it and enjoy it because I didn't want to sit here for nearly 2 hours and I know these jokes. So I let myself kind of experience it, and I giggled at a lot of stuff. But yeah, full-throated, had to catch my breath laughing. Couldn't talk. Frying the cat in pure Nessun oil and the N-word.
Oh, you kind of have to know it's not coming. I think you're correct there, but just when I'm going to walk to the wrong side of the tracks, because you and I were watching this, and he comes up to the tracks, and I went, "Are you just going to stand there and let a train hit him?" and then you're like, "Nope, look, he went to the wrong side of the tracks." Okay. They could cut it here maybe, and then there's the guys playing dice, and My thought was just, oh, this is a visual prop to indicate he's now on the wrong side of the tracks. What shenanigans is he now going to do? And then he walks into the middle of their dice game.
Tell a friend. I'm pretty sure this clip's on YouTube.
This has to be on YouTube. Please. This is the kind of unbelievably irreverent comedy we all need.
Yep.
Watch this, laugh.
If you're ever feeling blue, send the Danger Seekers. Danger Seekers clip from the Kentucky Fried Movie. All right, the last one. Catholic High School Girls in Trouble moves very fast, and despite the fact there's unending amount of nudity in it, that's funny to me. I didn't think this is funny. I get the joke. The joke is there's this couple trying to have sex on the couch, and they're watching. And initially, the woman's not into it. She wants them to put the TV on. We've all been there. All right, so now the news is on, and that gets her going, and so he's back into it again. And after they get going for a little while, the newscaster starts stumbling over his words. He's trying to keep going, because if he keeps going, she'll keep going. Because it's a 1984 two-way television. Get it? Get it? So the more she gets off, the more people start coming in from the left and right side of the television screen, like producers and boom operators and whatnot. And they're all simulating orgasm while she's getting off. And then she looks to the TV, and they all move away. And then she gets back into it again, and they all come back, and she orgasms, and they all throw paper everywhere, and then we're done. I'm done with the movie by this point, so I'm kind of glad it's over. But I wasn't into this sketch, and it's kind of a shit one to end on.
Yeah, this didn't do anything for me. They really should have ended with the N-word. Well, they end with that and then cut to the final 11 o'clock news bit.
Yep, I'm not wearing any pants. Film at 11. All right, so in total, I'll give you the last word here, and then we'll get out here. What did you think of the Kentucky Fried Movie now that I've made you watch this?
I'm not sure I'm better off for having seen it. That said, I did enjoy parts of it. I laughed a few times. I didn't roll my eyes too hard at most of it. You seem to enjoy the experience of watching it with me.
Yeah, that was
fun. We'll just go with a mostly harmless time was had. Couple of genuine belly laughs, and given your sense of humor relative to my sense of humor, your movie recommendations, if I get 2 good laughs out of a movie, we'll call that a win.
So my next question to you, and then we'll end for the evening. Have you ever seen the Amazon Women on the Moon?
No, I have not.
Okay, so Amazon Women on the Moon is the 80s version of this.
Okay.
So the premise is that you, the viewer, are watching up all night 50 sci-fi movies. And tonight's selection is Amazon Women on the Moon. But the picture keeps going out, so then you skip channels, and there's others, and then so the sketches are stuff happening on other channels.
Okay, as a guy who has done a lot of channel surfing, I'm not sure how this is supposed to appeal to me. I've done this.
Well, the sketches are funny. So this has the infamous Arsenio Hall versus the Apartment sketch, which if you don't know it...
Never seen it, never heard of it.
Okay, we're going to need to do this again then, because now you need to see Amazon Women on the Moon.
Hey, Bryan Cranston's in that.
That has the infamous Andrew Dice Clay Ray sketch.
I'm just going to look down who's on this because it's a bunch of sketches, so there's a lot of different people.
Yep.
So
Steve Gutenberg's in there. Andrew Dice Clay.
Neither of those are ringing endorsements. Oh, John Travolta's in there.
Yep.
Oh, B.B. King, nice.
Yes, I actually remember the sketch he's in.
Let's see. Okay, the aforementioned Bryan Cranston. Oh, Ed Begley Jr., who I only know because he's a living meme.
Oh yeah, he does a sketch about the Invisible Man that's really funny.
Yeah, Carrie Fisher's in there somewhere, apparently.
Mm-hmm. It's been a while since I've seen this one because the funny because the thing that I like about Amazon Women on the Moon the most is the Arsenio Hall versus the apartment sketch, and like the rest of it, like I remember, and I think it's funny, but like the one that gets repeat viewings out of me, like I'll just watch that sketch on YouTube.
So your pitch to me is we're going to do this again.
Yeah, why not?
You know, I wish I had something better to do with my time.
All right, so the next time we have a reaction video, a reaction podcast after having watched the movie for the first time, I'm going to make Robert watch another sketch movie. And after this, I don't know. I don't know where we go because there aren't any other sketch movies I'm aware of. But so the next time we do this, it'll be Amazon Women on the Moon. All right, until then, folks, I'm out of here. Robert, thanks for doing this with me tonight. Be well, be safe, and behave.